Greetings, Eric Brown, MOBO-Media, MOBO-Media. Hey, I thought I'd come on here and talk about something that's rather sensitive, but I think a lot of people don't talk enough about, and that's mental health. And what I want to talk about is give you some tips on how to deal with a loved one that's struggling with mental health. Now, before I do that, I want to let you know that I do have receipts. I'm degreed in psychology. I've worked in the clinical settings in the Air Force. So a lot of experience on my belt. I'm not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, not a social worker, but I've got enough experience probably to be one. I am pursuing a doctorate degree in psychology, but I want to make sure that when I'm talking that, it's coming from a place of experience and a place of fact-based science. So I'm going to give 5 little tips from my own perspective of, the best way to deal with a loved one that is struggling with mental health issues. So the first tip I'll give is to listen without judgment. Listen without judgment. And what that means is to be a safe space for the person, Let them talk freely without offering unsolicited advice or criticism. What that means, if they're not asking for your advice, don't give it to them. A person suffering with mental health issues, you have to understand they've compartmentalized things in their head. And so it's really difficult for you to really understand what is going on in their head. So that's why you need to be able to give them some space and let them know that when you're interacting with them, it's a safe space. They're okay to interact with you. Let them talk freely. A lot of folks dealing with issues, oftentimes they just want to be heard. So, don't control the narrative. Don't control the conversation. Allow these people to talk. Almost put yourselves in a position of a tape recorder. Think of a tape recorder, and you're just receiving information. Obviously, you want to give the head nods or to let the person know that you're getting what they're telling them. It's so important for you to let them know that you're listening. Listening is probably one of the biggest things you could do when you have someone struggling with mental health issues. But don't criticize. Do not criticize them. A lot of times they're trying to make sense in their own heads of things, and so your criticism doesn't help, particularly if it's negative criticism. There's nothing wrong with positive criticism, okay? But with the negative criticism, be careful with that, because you could make the person sink a little deeper into the situation they're in. They can go into a little darker place. So with number 1, listen without judgment. Don't judge the person. Don't criticize the person. Make sure you are a safe space for the person, and give them opportunity to speak freely. So the second tip I'll have here is educate yourself. And this is probably one of the more important ones. You got a lot of people out there who self-educate or who think because they've had life experiences, they understand mental health or the things that go on with the human mind. And I would tell you to be careful with that, because the human mind is very complicated. And so you want to make sure that the person seeks professional help from someone who has a great understanding of the dynamics of the human mind and of human behavior. So always educate yourself to make sure you understand what that person is going through, whether it be depression, whether the person is having issue with bipolar, anxiety, you name it. There's a lot of educational material out there to give you a good understanding of what that is. Now, some of the material out there is not meant to give you a degree, but it is meant to give you some indication of what this person may be dealing with. Okay, so the third tip I have is encourage professional help. I can't say that enough, because it's important to, seek out people that really understand that type of mental incapacity. I say incapacity because the person is not themselves, or they may be mentally unstable. And so you want to always seek professional help. Let the professionals deal with that, particularly when you start talking about folks who have suicidal thoughts, ideations, and things like that. Be very careful. Obviously, you may be the only one there in the moment, which is why I'm giving you these tips. But always make sure that you don't cross a line and try to self-diagnose the person or some other craziness like that. So I encourage you to seek professional help. A lot of resources out there. Go online, talk to folks, talk to healthcare providers, therapists, you name it. But a lot of resources out there in terms of professional help. The fourth one I want to talk about is setting healthy boundaries. This is so important. Because if you don't set healthy boundaries, you can find yourself in the same situation as the person sitting across from you in. And I'll tell you a story. I worked in mental health clinics in the Air Force for a number of years. Like I said, I'm degreed in it. I've got a couple degrees in the field, and got a lot of clinical work in the field, Air Force. So one of the things I want to tell you is that I remember every Friday we had a small crew of mental health professionals. We had a psychiatrist, we had psychologists, social workers, substance abuse counselors. We had it all, but it was a small group of people, probably in total about 25 of us. Well, on Fridays, what we would do, because we're dealing with patients, all week, we would always set aside for ourselves at least 1 hour on Friday to have what we would call healthy discussions, self-care. Because oftentimes when you're working in the field of mental health, all day, every day, you're sitting across from someone and they're telling you their problems and stuff you probably don't want to hear. It can take a toll on you. It can take a toll on you. It doesn't have to be in a clinical setting. It could be someone that's dealing with a loved one who is having these sporadic issues, abnormal behaviors, and those sorts of things. And so you want to set healthy boundaries. You want to, first of all, be firm with the person, because oftentimes with mental health, you also have people that I don't want to say this in a negative way, but they tend to play games. They're very manipulative. They can manipulate you. Some of these folks are good at what they do, particularly folks that have been struggling with these issues for a long time, and they take on some different behaviors other than mental health behaviors. They start taking on behaviors of different personalities that are not really healthy. Let's just say that. But you want to set healthy boundaries. You don't want to give in all the time to the person that's having a mental health crisis. If you're in doubt, call somebody, call the cops, what have you, if you feel unsafe. But you want to set healthy boundaries. You want to set your foot down and let the folks know there are rules, there are boundaries, there are thresholds, there are lines they can cross. Sometimes you got to be firm with the mental health patients. You have to, because oftentimes you got to understand they're looking for guidance or they don't have guidance. And so they're leaning on you to give them guidance. And this is not the time to approach this with very soft hands, so to say. You got to take control of the situation, because it can spiral in any direction at a drop of a dime. It can go from just a healthy conversation to this person being, having behaviors that scare the hell out of you, and you want to call the cops or somebody else. And so be very careful of setting those boundaries and letting the person know there are lines that can be crossed. And the last one I want to talk about here is be consistent and be present. Be consistent and be present. I just talked about boundaries. If you're going to set boundaries, be consistent with them. Don't just one day, you put your foot down and have the boundaries, and the next day you're giving in, you're flip-flopping. Well, guess what? You're a prime target for being manipulated by the person. I'm not saying all people with mental health issues are manipulative or have manipulative behaviors, but I'm just telling you, you're setting yourself up for failures if you're not consistent in the way you approach things. And on top of consistency is to be present. Be present. Don't be afraid of the mental health issues. There's nothing wrong with having mental health issues. I always tell people that all the time. To me, mental health is responding normally to an abnormal situation. I want to repeat that again. People with mental health oftentimes to me are just people that are responding normally to abnormal situations. And I want to give you examples of that. The times we live in today are not normal. They're not normal. There's stuff going on. There's stuff coming at us. All this. There's trauma going on. We don't realize. Some of the stuff we see on TV is trauma. Prime example, the Texas floods that are taking place and all the recovery efforts. It's pretty traumatic for someone to sit and watch that constantly. So just imagine that's one thing on TV you can watch. Just imagine stuff on TV coming at you. You got everyday life things coming at you. And so you want to be present in the moment with the person. Don't be afraid of the person with mental health issues. Again, they're just folks that are responding normally a lot of times. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody's not responding normally. Sometimes they have abnormal responses to normal situations, okay? Something that can be normal, they respond abnormally, and that's something you need to watch out for too. So, for example, in a setting where it should be fun and entertaining, and you got this person over here bitter, and they're like, it's almost like they feel as though they're in a negative environment. That's a flag. That's a flag, because that lets you know that person's somewhere else mentally. They're not present. So at least you need to be present. You need to bring that person into the present. If they're having issues with anger and things like that, talk to them. Don't be afraid to ask the question, hey, what's going on with you? Talk to me. But again, be a good listener. Don't tell them what's going on with them. Do not try to be a professional. Do not try to diagnose. Just be a good listener. Just be there and be present. So those are the tips that I have, with caring for a loved one. Other things I can tell you about that is you want to check on them regularly. Check on them regularly. If you haven't seen a loved one at some time that are dealing with some mental health issues, you want to make sure you check on them, because it doesn't take much for a person to spiral out of control. And I've seen folks with psychotic breaks, man. They end up walking around neighborhoods, don't know where they are. I've seen it. I've seen a lady when I was younger. Her brother was killed violently, and in front of her. And I actually saw this myself, and I felt so bad for her. For him, obviously, he died. There was no coming back. But for her, man, I saw her for weeks after that walking just aimlessly around the neighborhood talking to herself. She had a psychotic break. It went from depression to trauma. She had a psychotic break, and that lady needed some professional help. But you want to check on your folks regularly. You want to show love. Be empathetic, but be careful with the empathy part. Do not tell a person that's going through mental health issues, I know what you're going through. Don't do that. And it goes the same for a person that's grieving. Don't tell a person that's grieving, oh, I know how you feel. That's a big turnoff, because you really don't know how a person feels. Everybody grieves differently. No different than a person having mental health issues. Be careful in saying you understand what they're going through. It comes to a point you can kind of talk about that, but you just got to be careful with it. You got to be careful. Do not think that you're sitting there telling the person 100% I know what's wrong with you. You're going to get a bad response. And so be careful with that. And the other one, always, always, always remind the person that is going through these mental health struggles that they are not alone. It's so important for them to know that they are not alone. Even if you can talk to them and give them examples of some of your own struggles, it helps. It lets the person know, wow, it's not just me. I'm not the only one going through this. You just don't know how powerful that can be to let a person know that they are human, that they go through things, and you go through things, and people go through things, and people just want to know that what they're going through is normal, and so I think it's important for you to do that, but do it carefully. Because sometimes things that people are going through are not normal, and so that's where you get the professionals involved to try to deal with folks that are really, really traumatized by something that's not normal. With that, this is Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. I thought I'd just give a few tips on how to deal with, if you have a family member, loved one, friend, anybody dealing with mental health issues, you want to approach it with soft gloves, with caring, loving gloves. Again, don't self-diagnose. Don't tell the person, I know exactly everything's going on with you. Don't tell them, hey, come on, let's go out and have a drink. Don't do that. Don't tell them, just get over it, because you don't understand what that person's going through. When you say get over it, it could be you're telling them to get over more than one thing. There could be 10 things going on with this person. They could have been involved with 10 traumatic events that have been just stacked on top of each other. And now it's presenting itself as something else, as someone who's mentally unstable. But all in all, they've gone through a lot of traumatic events. And so with that, this is Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. As I mentioned before, some of the things I'll be discussing on my channel are mental health. That's my passion, mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse, those sorts of things. I also talk about community, resources. I'm a public servant. I consider myself a public servant. I'll talk about veterans issues. I'm a 22-year Air Force veteran, and I feel an obligation to my fellow veterans to speak to veterans issues, especially when they have a direct impact on our veterans. And lastly, the things that I like to talk about is just what I would call health and wellness. And that ties kind of right into mental health. Health and wellness, I think, is so important. So I touch on a whole bunch of those on this channel. But with that, I want to let y'all go and just thank y'all for subscribing. If you have not subscribed, please do so. I guarantee you it will not be a mistake. Thank y'all. Eric Brown, MOBO-Media. I'm out.